Thank you so much, everybody, and welcome again to another episode of Neurodivergent Nook, our podcast. I am Helen Neal. I'm a therapist and also autistic ADHD, and I've got Diane with me here.
Hi, Diane here, previous Senko and head teacher and teacher, currently tutoring and coaching and fostering neurodivergent teenagers, and also have ADHD and autism myself.
So today we're going to be talking about one of the senses. We covered interoception in the last season. So we thought we'd have a look at proprioception, another one of the three that's obviously sometimes not talked about quite as much as the famous five.
Yes.
And to give a little bit of background, proprioception is the sense of where we are in the world. And it's typically something that we kind of do automatically.
Yeah.
We don't really have to think about it, or do we?
Yeah.
I think is the question. And it can show up in lots of different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if my proprioceptive sense is very different, shall we say?
Maybe that's a good starting point. Let's hear what yours is like, and then we can explain maybe why yours.
Yeah, that's a very good idea. So I have absolutely no sense of where I am in the world. My poor husband would probably divorce me the number of times I've bumped into him when I'm on a walk because I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Driving a car. Oh my God. I literally.
She is safe. She is safe.
I am safe now. I've been driving for 20 odd years now. But when I first started, I genuinely had a really, and I can't really explain the feeling.
Yeah.
It was kind of in my throat, in my chest, being there and having the edges of the car and not really knowing where they were.
Even though you could see
Even though I could see them.
Yes.
And the kind of anxiety that caused in my body because I was responsible for something else that was beyond my body and I didn't know where the edges of my body were. And I laugh about it, but it was, and I took a lot of lessons.
Yes. Yeah.
I failed 3 times.
Right. Okay.
Last on my fault.
Now you're an excellent driver.
I'm a perfectly fine driver now. It just took me a long time to learn where the edges of the car were and to not be anxious because of that experience.
Yeah.
And I think it was always the anxiety within my tests that stopped me from passing because I'm constant anxious about where I am in the car.
Yeah. And that, and that's certainly not a cognitive thing, is it? That you weren't capable of passing a driving test. It's interesting, actually, that you just said about the driving and how long it took you. Because like you, it took me 3 or 4 times to pass my test. And I consider myself a good
You're a very safe job. I've been in a car with you.
But yeah, so my 17-year-old is now having driving lessons and she's only had 5 lessons. And like she said already on the third one, she was in 5th gear. Sorry, third lesson, she was in 4th gear. Then the next session, she was doing 5th gear and going to the petrol station and putting in petrol in the car. I wasn't doing any of that stuff for about a year. And I was in my 30s. At 17, she smashed it. So she clearly has, is much more in response to her own proprioception.
Yes.
And that feedback she gets than I was all year.
Than I was as well. Yeah, both of us. Yeah, struggling. And I think actually the car is quite a good analogy because you're effectively when I'm walking and I bump into my husband and I don't know where my edge is. You've also got to think about pulling into a car parking space. I'm trying really, really hard. I can almost
yeah.
feel my head going, "Now, where is the front of the car?"
Oh God, absolutely.
And
Do
I'm
other people do it differently then?
presumably, I don't know. They presumably know where the front of the car is, but I really have to think about it and
Oh
look.
look, yeah, look. Oh,
Yeah.
that's not a
Because
neurodivergent.
I really don't know. All I know is my experience and the experience of others in the car
Yeah,
and parking.
yeah.
And parking is a really, really difficult thing for me.
Yeah. Do you have to turn the radio off
Yes.
so you can listen to
So
the
you've got to understand.
Yeah.
To
No.
understand what's going on. God.
I am.
But we laugh about it.
It's quite,
But
but
actually,
it's stressful,
it's
isn't
really
it?
stressful.
Yeah.
And I think one of the key things is I didn't realise that it impacts people in the way that it does
Yeah.
until I started thinking about, well, actually, if you're a little bit more sensitive about where your edge is and people get into that,
Yes.
that could be kind of the opposite.
Yeah.
And the anxiety inducement of that, and thinking about individuals that are autistic or ADHD or have sensory processing differences in big crowds.
Yeah. Yeah. And what that can,
And
feel,
what that
feels
can
like.
actually feel like.
Yeah.
And I feel it because I don't know where my edge is. But if you really are aware of that,
Sure.
then it could be a quite difficult experience and an understandable one where, you're struggling.
Yeah, definitely. And it's when you're just saying about kind of large crowds, if I'm inside a building and there's large crowds, I don't know, for example, go to a concert gig or whatever, I am very overwhelmed very, very quickly. But if you put me outside, then let's use example of a festival or music, thing that, that's outdoors, I'm absolutely fine. And I could be with millions of people and not be fazed by that but so for me, it's the indoor outdoor bit and that kind of that sensory input from that changes my responses to how I'm feeling and, and then, those people around me. Also in our family, we've got a range of people that like being hugged sometimes, don't like being hugged sometimes, don't like light touch sometimes, only like light touch sometimes. And that's really confusing because there's 6 of us and I have to try and work out on any day which one that other family member might want or not want. Obviously, you can ask them. Like my husband and I need regular proprioception through hugging. Um, and that regulates us all throughout the day. Like, just passing each other in the kitchen, we will hug. And that's not even something we talk about, we just do it. But I think probably hugging about 30 times a day, gives us that proprioception, gives us that, that deep kind of feedback that our body needs, and probably makes us feel a lot more relaxed throughout the day than if we weren't doing that. Um, but yeah, other family members, I might have to say to them, would you like a hug? Or, do you want to squeeze their hand or whatever might maybe make them feel better, but, in response to what their body needs at that time. One of my foster children that comes to stay with me for respite, he's only 10 and he's taller than me and has autism, and he needs lots and lots of proprioception, lots of proprioceptive feedback. So he spends a lot of the time jumping up into my arms, which is quite quite a big thing, but he's bigger than me and kind of knocks me down. So he spent a lot of time in soft play so that he could do the bouncing, the jumping, the rolling, all of, the swinging, all of those things that his body's really, really needing to regulate himself. But again, he will kind of just launch himself at me at any time with so much love. So we spend a lot of time, before we go out, I kind of do kind of nice massage work on his legs and things like that. So that if we are, for example, going to a cafe or somewhere, then he's nice and sort of calm and ready, ready for that next activity. So that's
And that proprioceptive feedback is, you know, the understanding of whether that's something that is a trigger for an individual or something that's more restorative, or it potentially, you know, it could be a trigger in some situations, but actually restorative in others. And we talked previously on podcasts about how important autonomy is, and how it's about, you know, checking in with an individual and actually respecting those body boundaries as well. And you know, particularly if you're in neurodivergent spaces and just coming into that space around an individual and then touching them. And that can be very sort of dysregulating for neurodivergent people. So it's really important to ask permission. Like you were saying.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, it's almost feel like, you know, 1,000 bees stinging you otherwise, can't it? If somebody touches you when you're not, you know, when your body isn't receptive to that. And I think I've only learned probably in the last few years, maybe the last 5 years, to say, are you a hugger or would you like a hug? And I think back of probably all the times I did that to a neurodivergent person who was probably recoiling at my massive hugs that I like to give, and probably because I like receiving them.
And I'm sure that we feel a little bit of guilt about doing that.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
And the thing is that you're open-minded and willing to change and educating yourself. And I think that's what, you know, that's what this podcast is about. Hopefully you're here listening, so you now understand that the importance of doing that. And we have individuals in our family that absolutely no hugs, always ask permission.
Yeah, sure.
And it's also actually something that I think in professional environments, it's worth considering when a child is dysregulated.
Definitely.
And I think sometimes we perhaps don't necessarily think about the impact of, you know, all of those people in a school corridor, for example, and how difficult it is for children moving in secondary school. Because often you're in the same class and in primary, and that makes that easy. But in secondary school, with all of those people, how dysregulating is that for someone with proprioceptive differences?
And that bothers me a lot in secondary schools. That
And even just the option of moving through corridors a little bit earlier, so that you don't have to deal with that, and that means that you're more regulated when you start, and it
ready for the next lesson. I think, like, you know, unfortunately, because of time restraints, you know, secondary schools will use in between lessons, you know, and say that's that child's movement break before the next lesson, that movement break to regulate themselves. But like you just said, it's the most unregulating experience in the world, you know, in a secondary school with, you know, 1,500, 2,000 children, you know, that, you know, they're all trying to get somewhere at the same place into a different place. You know, the last couple of weeks I've been in a secondary school a couple of times, and, you know, when you've realised your meeting's coming to an end, but you also hear the bell going out for the in between lessons. And I sit there thinking, oh no, I'm going to be taken back to the entrance with all of those pupils. And I'm an adult, you know, and I anticipate that. And I just think of all of those neurodivergent children in lessons that are literally for the last 5 minutes waiting for that bell to go, terrified about going out into that hallway. And that's supposed to be their movement break, you know?
And that's why it's so important to try and be as individual as possible, and not think, oh, this child is autistic, this child has sensory needs. Oh, that means that the movement break will be great for them. But actually thinking very deliberately about what works for that child.
Yeah, for sure. You know, and in an ideal world, you know, for children that really kind of need that appropriate sensory kind of feedback, you know, through sensory circuits and sensory trails and, you know, doing specific activities, you know, you're supposed to do 5 minutes out of every hour, you know, throughout every part of the waking day. And there's no chance a child in school is getting 5-10 minutes of dedicated sensory time, you know, to regulate, to calm, to alert themselves ready for the next lesson. That's not happening every hour, is it? So, the time you've got 6 hours of a school day, that child is so unregulated, that's why we see the explosions at home, isn't it? Was actually they probably just needed, a bit of a roll on a peanut therapy ball a couple of times and a bounce on a trampoline at some point at lunchtime and a few bits like that would have held them, before they got home and they could kind of do some deep focused work. And that's what we're missing, isn't it? Like adults at work all day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it doesn't just apply to children, it goes through life. But
Yeah.
the thing is with adults, maybe we've got a little bit more autonomy and we can,
Mm.
but we don't have, and I remember when I worked with brands, when I used to work for, and I still do have my other website, but there was a company called Mind Camp, and they had a
Right.
slide
Yeah.
indoors for their employees.
For the adults.
For the adults.
Wow.
And I was just like mind completely blown by this concept. But that's I want to see more of that.
It's amazing.
And it was a very creative company,
Yeah.
digital,
And I bet they were
graphic
really
design,
successful,
and they
weren't
were incredibly successful. And it's because they gave a little bit of thought to the creativity of what is really helpful
Yeah.
for my staff. And there is to move.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of evidence around neurodivergence and creativity, and that company realised what works,
Wow, that's incredible.
which is fantastic. But that is few and far between.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the problems from school do have a knock-on effect into the work environment. And though we do have autonomy, we don't generally have autonomy to set up a slide in our office. Be nice if we could.
It really would be nice if we could, wouldn't it? For me, I think, kind of trying to find those little bits in the day where I haven't got the slide. For me, it's about putting my feet on the ground barefoot, and as you know about me, if I've got some grass under my feet and I can really feel where my feet are in relation to the ground, I literally, by earthing, I really feel grounded. And if I can swing my arms around a few times too, I kind of just get where I am again, and that just brings me back to being regulated, feeling grounded, feeling back with nature. Pop home for a couple of hugs with my husband, and I literally feel like a new person after I've done that.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
actually noticing that as well. And I know that before I had therapy, and I currently, I don't have shoes on at the minute because I don't like wearing shoes unless I can absolutely have to.
Yeah.
And that's because I realised that connection. And I sometimes do a body scan and just sit and notice, where you are, and turning because my attention drifts. Really? Look at that.
I never noticed.
And actually, moving that attention to the parts of your body and how it feels for your, bum on the seat as you currently are, feet on the floor, and what you can even sort of feel and hear around your body is really bringing your attention back to that and the proprioceptive input. And you don't get much more proprioceptive input than your feet, bare feet on the floor.
Yeah, and I think, that body scan example that you just gave, isn't it? It can take 2-3 minutes. 2 or 3 minutes, isn't it? And it's really, really powerful as well. And, I know I've encouraged lots of people to do that at night time when they can't sleep, and so they can actually feel that, feel your body and your back and your bottom, can't you? Everything lying on the mattress or the sofa or whatever. And that's can be quite an effective one to do at bedtime, just to and it calms your mind as well, doesn't it, at the same time? But yeah, feet, isn't it? Feet are just the thing, aren't they? I mean, if I had my way, every neurodivergent child and young person would be allowed to have their shoes off in school. I was talking to a Senko at a special school a few months ago and saying about how she gets really frustrated because the children that have quite, severe autism that go there, want to take their shoes off, but the rules are there that they're not allowed. So what? So your children that are non-verbal or pre-verbal are communicating to you in a behaviour by taking their shoes off, that they need that proprioceptive feedback, but the rule is in a special school that they're not allowed to do that. And it just blew my mind that there wasn't that understanding that that would regulate that child, and then they would probably then be able to learn.
And that's the thing, isn't it? Is trying to get the readiness to learn. And I can do it. You know, I've
Yeah.
if I'm sitting around and I haven't got my shoes on,
Yeah,
I can almost feel
Yes.
that better regulation, and I have the autonomy to do that.
Yeah.
But the frustration is there, by the sounds of it, that
Yeah.
even in an organisation and a setting where there is meant to be better understanding,
Yeah.
it doesn't seem to extend to proprioceptive input.
Yeah, it was a bit mind blown, I must admit. But yeah, one day we'll get there. I think, another thing is the T-Rex hands, getting all that proprioceptive feedback on your wrists.
Yeah.
My husband and I sleep like that. Do you?
I actually I sleep with my hand under the pillow because of the pressure.
Oh, you do that.
So
Okay.
I know that is a proprioceptive input thing,
Yeah.
because I'm lying and I've got the pressure around my, and I actually really struggle in the heat,
Right. Okay.
because I don't like not having something over the top of me.
Yeah.
And sleeping outside the duvet
Yeah.
is like, oh my God.
Just might get you.
But and I know that's because of proprioceptive feedback that I need, and I find that, if I've maybe just got my hand under the pillow, then there's something else going on,
Yeah.
and it doesn't feel quite so dysregulating, and I feel a bit safer. And on that note, we've got to finish now.
Oh, we could go on for weeks about proprioception, I think.
And it is really, really important just to be aware
That's key.
and also how it feels.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important as well. It's like that, it's you're fine kind of thing. And actually it can stop me from sleeping.
Totally. Yeah.
It can stop a child in a school from feeling ready to learn because of the impact of moving between lessons.
So much so.
So it does have a significant impact.
Yeah. Listen to your body. And
Absolutely.
and if you work in an office, just take your shoes and socks up under the desk. Nobody will see.
Yeah.
That's my top tip.
Or try and get them through the store slide.
Yeah, if that doesn't work.
Thanks so much, and we'll see you again next week.
Yeah, we'll do.
For another new topic. So I hope you've all enjoyed listening, and see you again soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.